Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome to our lovely guest today, Nicky Merrick. Hi Nicky.
Hi.
Before we get started, here's a quick bio from Nicky. Pink Giraffe is a design company owned and run by Nicky Merrick. Originally an event photographer, Nicky changed to online sales after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and having a baby. Currently designing and making costumes for pole dancers, Nicky is also developing a kids' clothing range inspired by all things magical. Working from home gives her the flexibility to ensure there is time for managing her health and looking after her family. And I was just chatting with Nicky there, and I actually first come across her within an online community a couple of years ago when she was asking us all to vote for something in particular. And then I realised that she attends the sewing studio run by Jane White, who was our second guest. So although Nicky doesn't realise it, I've known about her for quite a while. So I know I sound like a stalker, and we were just laughing about that. But it's funny how the internet works, and that we do actually find ourselves being known by people when we don't know that's happening. So there we are. Anyway, so that's that, Nicky. Before we get started any further, would you like to share with us what you're working on at the moment and what has got you excited?
Well, I'm working on the poleware predominantly at the moment. There's a lot of orders to get through from a recent event I took part in.
Right.
So although I do a lot of other things, it is poleware every day, every night for the moment. I have another event coming up which I need to prepare for. And I want to create a showstopper, something that's going to drag people to come and look at my work. Right. And I'm just got to finish, I think, 2 orders before I can start work on it. But I have a lot of visions. I woke up this morning with a complete vision of what it would look like in black and shocking pink, with lots of pink sequins and crystals, flowers, organza, chiffon. It's all going to be happening. And it's going to be like a fairy, a pole dancing fairy.
Ooh, that sounds very good. So that was your vision of this morning, was it?
Yeah, I woke up with the vision of the colour scheme and everything. I'm not fully decided on the black and pink because I like black and pink and it matches my business logo, but it's not everybody's choice. So, but that's where it's at the moment.
Right, okay. And kind of moving from there, obviously most of the people I've been talking to is been embroidery and textile art. Now, I know you do some textile art, more of a kind of a hobby like me, but
yeah,
to just kind of fill us in really, because I think it's quite an interesting story anyway of how you've finished up moving into poleware and the other kind of items that you design as part of the Pink Giraffe brand.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people of a certain generation anyway. We learnt from our mums. My mum was always sewing, knitting, creating, making things.
Yeah.
And I was a dancer as a little girl, so I used to design my dance costumes and my mum used to make them. And it's quite interesting that now I can make them myself. I can look back with a lot of respect for what she was actually doing because she didn't have half the equipment that I've got available to me now.
Oh, that's right. The materials are just so different, aren't they? Yeah, Mum used to make a lot of things for me, and I'm a lot older than you, but yeah, there was nothing like that at all. So yeah, as you say, it's amazing what people have managed to come up with in the past. And now, of course, aren't we just spoilt for choice with all these fantastic materials that we can use?
Yeah, I mean, the fabric quality has changed. The amount of different types of fabric have changed. The way we embellish costumes has greatly changed because I remember in the past, if anyone was gluing on a sequin, that was just so amateur. You just didn't do that. With glue, you don't glue things, it's sewing. Whereas now, all the crystals that you see on Strictly Come Dancing and the poleware that I make now, we glue them.
Right. Oh, do you know, well, I didn't realise that, so there we are.
Yeah.
Something. There
will be some people who don't, but most of them are glued on, and it's very, very quick, and it's obviously a lot more professional looking than gluing things was a few decades decades ago.
Well, glue's changed as well, hasn't it? So
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I mean, these things can go through a 60-degree wash and still stay on.
Oh, I didn't realise that. Obviously, I don't run around in pearl wear with sequins glued on. I'm Mrs. Fleece top and leggings woman. So.
Well, yes. I mean, I don't wear the costumes myself, but I've done some test strips and stuck them all on using different glues. And I wrote in marker pen what type of glue I'd used and what method I'd used, and then I put them through the washing machine. But even though I've done those tests on my own garments that I make, I still put on the garment care label, don't do that. Don't put garments in the washing machine. Hand wash only.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause it's just better that way. It does make the costume last for longer as well.
Well, yes, exactly. So you're on with your pearl wear. So you're saying you had the dance wear that your mum was making for you. So how has your business developed, I would say then, Nicky, over the years?
Well, it's probably a combination of two things. I continued with the creative process after I left home and, was doing my own thing. And I've always been heavily interested in the arts and design and the creative process. But I wasn't doing an awful lot. I was busy doing other things, going to university, travelling, playing rugby, lots of other things to do. And the creative element sort of stayed in the background.
Yes.
But then as things change, and while I was at university, I met my husband, or he became my husband afterwards, and we have children, and when you become a mum, you start to see the world differently, and all these changes happen. And I think I came full circle, and my daughter was at college doing drama, and I was at college doing a foundation degree. I already had my undergraduate degree, but I wanted to do something creative. And so I did the foundation degree and specialised in fashion and textiles. So by the end of that course, I'd bought myself a sewing machine and all sorts of fabric and embellishments, and I'd started making cloaks. And this is really where the textile art came into what I was doing. So the cloaks that I made at college were very heavily embellished, a lot of free motion embroidery, a lot of beadwork, using the embellishing machine, which is like a sewing machine, but it's using the barbs that you would use in needle felting. So that's puncturing those up and down very quick. And so that's a great way to attach different fibres to pieces of material and to other fibres, and it just knits them together.
Oh, do you know, I've often wondered what an embellishing machine is. That sounds like a
dance
start, doesn't it? That sounds fantastic.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. Definitely look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, and it was one of your cloaks that I first saw. Definitely, I remember the picture.
Yeah, would have been the ivy cloak.
The ivy cloak, yes. And you've sent me an image of that as well, haven't you? So
yeah, it's still my favourite thing ever. I think
that's what caught my eye, because I'm interested in textile and all the rest of it, and that's the first thing that I noticed when you posted that in the group. And that's lovely. So all right, so that's where you started getting back into it all again then.
Yeah. I still had my business, Pink Giraffe, that had been the photography business. And once we moved over here when our little boy was just about to turn 1. So I'd had the business for quite a while, and I'd moved to selling online. And while I was at college, I thought, actually, maybe I could sell some of this work as well as what I'm selling. I'd been dyeing baby clothes in rainbow colours. My target audience for Pink Giraffe has always been very alternative, very hippy-dippy, a bit maybe goth, and, an alternative lifestyle.
Yes.
Lots of rainbows and lots of black, really. And I used to photograph pagan events as an event photographer. I'd been down to London photographing a Beltane ceremony. I'd photographed someone's hand fasting, which is a pagan wedding. And so I kept the same target audience, and these cloaks are often used within pagan ceremonies. And so that's so some of the people that have been buying my cloaks are pagan and use them in their ceremonies. And so that was a big turning point for Pink Giraffe. I became more of a maker and started selling more of my designs and the things that I'd made.
Right. So that's quite a movement then, isn't it, really, from, as you say, being a photographer. But what I really like, Mrs. Marketing Person here, is the fact that on the face of it, it looks like you're doing something different, but that key element has been your audience. So you've provided a different service to the same set of people, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it just made sense to do that. And it's something,
Absolutely.
it's an area that I belong to, if you like. It's an area I understand, and I'm in that category myself. So it made sense to do it that way.
Brilliant. And so then how did the poleware come into it all?
Well, I suppose that still comes under my umbrella of alternative, because it is a little different to mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But it was actually a friend from school. We'd moved back over to Lincolnshire, like I say, when Zed was very little. Yeah. And a friend that I used to know from school, been in touch loosely, every now and then through Facebook, which is how everyone seems to get together. And her daughter dances and teaches, and she competes in the poleware competitions at a very high standard. She's absolutely amazing. And my friend said, I don't suppose you or your mum fancy making a dance costume, do you? Just an off chance comment, which was last Christmas, so coming up a year ago. Mm-hmm. And I'd always fancied it. I designed so many for myself when I was younger. I'd never had the opportunity to make one. I always fancied having a go at it, but I didn't really have enough reason to do it other than just for, my own enjoyment. So I went for it, and I made some, and then other people started asking about them. And now it's a massive part of what I do, and I'm sponsoring huge competitions and attending these events and getting involved with the whole pole industry.
So that's absolutely wonderful. That's really great. I love that story. Brilliant. So moving on then, you maybe touched a bit of it, but kind of who or what have been your major inspirations to you over the years and currently, Nicky?
I think nature has always been a big influence in what I do. If you think of the ivy cloak, which I know you've got a photo of, and it's called the ivy cloak because there's so much ivy on it. And, the pagan celebrations that I was a part of was very heavily influenced by nature and the turning of the seasons. I love selecting colour schemes from the time of year and what we see outside.
Yes.
But, you get inspiration from all over the place, from many different people. My mum has always been an inspiration because she was so creative and made so many things. It was always part of my life.
Yes.
My tutors at college were an inspiration because they enabled me to get to a point where I had this idea of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get there. And they helped me do that. And then Jane, who you've mentioned, was one of your guests when you first started these podcasts. She's a massive influence for me at the moment because she's just tightened up every skill that I had and improved me so much and got me doing things properly. To the point that I feel proud about what I'm able to do now. Instead of thinking, that'll do, I'll budge my way through something. Not for selling so much, but just with making clothes.
Yes.
When I first went to Jane, which was maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, I told her that I'd made quite a few garments clothing-wise and that I had quite a lot of experience in the art side of sewing. But I knew that I didn't have the skills to the technical skills needed to do it properly.
Yes.
I was always just making do and just getting by and just making it okay. So I wanted Jane to treat me from the very beginning as if I knew nothing about sewing or dressmaking, and started from scratch and filled in all the gaps of all the elements of detail and precision, and knowing that you're doing something correctly gives you a big boost and confidence to continue, knowing that you're doing it right. And so I take a lot more pride in my work now. So, Jane's been very influential.
Yes, and back to all the lovely materials that we have now. Yes, a lot of them are lovely, but crikey, they can be very, very difficult to handle and sew, and the slightest kind of mistake can show very badly as well, can't it? So,
it can,
yeah. Well, if anyone's going to teach you the proper techniques and how to do things beautifully, it's Jane. So.
It's Jane, definitely.
Wonderful. And any other inspirations?
No, I think that's mainly it. For my design work, I look to nature. For my inspiration from people, there's Jane and my mum, and also just everything that's going on around me. You get inspiration from other designers, other poleware makers.
Yes.
There's a fine line, I suppose, between inspiration and just copying someone. And it's something that's been mentioned in the pole world recently.
Right.
And I know that I would never copy someone else's design, but exactly. I've had another maker see a photo of my work, and she told me, she said, someone sent me a picture of that and asked me to make it. And of course she said no. But there are people that are willing to do that. But
well, yes, that's prevalent, isn't it, in the fashion world? We only have to see, some designers release their latest collection, and then there's other people rushing off into the back streets to go and bring it out faster than they can. That happens
within high fashion and the big shows. You get them twice a year normally, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's in Primark like the next day.
Yeah.
But I do think that kind of supports the industry as well. It seems to work in favour of each other. The audiences are big enough and wide enough to be accommodating to both types of business.
Yes.
It must still be frustrating to individual designers, though.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you'd feel frustrated if somebody had just have outright copied something that you've done. But then again, I suppose there's flattery in there as well, isn't there? I think, actually you're creating things that people feel worthy of copying. So
and I think people are talking about you. The pole world particularly is very small, and if someone did copy my design, it would be pretty easy to find out, and other people would know, and that would mean they were talking about me.
Yes.
And I think it would look better on me than the person copying it.
So, exactly. Yes. You're the one who the light would reflect on well.
I think so. And if people are talking about your business, it means they know who you are, and it means that your marketing message is getting through, which is what we all strive for.
Exactly. So what would you say your favourite techniques, Nicky? Is that something that anything leaps out at you to kind of share with us, and why do you like them so much? And it's slightly different since we're talking about your pearl wear and your design and your sewing, but I'm sure there's still some favourite techniques that you might be able to share with us.
There are. I mean, I've always loved the embellishing side of things. So I can sit and sew beads and sequins and now glue as well for hours, and I'm very content doing that. But when it comes to more standard dressmaking without the heavy embellishments, I love top stitching. I really love it. And I get annoyed with people who think it doesn't matter and that you don't need to do top stitching. And this is probably where Jane's influence is coming in, because, it finishes off a garment. It just makes it look more professional. It looks better. It looks nice. And so I do like top stitching, but a lot of people, I don't know whether they fear it because it's quite hard to get it neat. But a lot of people don't like it.
Well, I'm sure there probably is a lot of fear in there, because you've done the garments and there you are, then it's that last piece, and say if you wobble, or it does have to be well done, doesn't it? That's the thing. So I'm sure a lot of people
can ruin a garment in a few seconds.
Yes. So that'll be some good tuition from Jane there on top stitching as well. So
because with top stitching being one of my least favourite is unpicking top stitching.
The dreaded unpicker. It's a nightmare, isn't it, really? Yeah. And as fast as machines go, you can very quickly have a real load to unpick as well. Yeah.
I did watch a brilliant YouTube video recently, though, to unpick an overlocked seam. Right. And I've cracked it. I can do it now, and not as quickly as I can sew the seam, but I can unpick it pretty quick. And it used to take me about half an hour if I'd made a mess of an overlocked seam. It was more like it was quicker to normally cut the fabric again and re-sew it.
When you look, there's some fantastic things on YouTube, isn't there? There's some really, really useful things. So we're all blessed. Going back to like when your mum and my mum was sewing. Well, computers didn't exist, let alone YouTube. So we take so much for granted, I think, of what we have at our fingertips. But
it makes me look to the future. It makes me wonder what is the next generation going to have available to them, because I think everything we have is amazing. And so where is the future in product development of fabrics, garments, materials, embellishments? It must be incredible.
Because you almost sit there and think, well, what else is there left to invent?
Yes.
What else is there? What can anybody come up with? And there will be lots of things, but it is interesting. It's an interesting viewpoint, even just down to fabrics. What other things are going to be available to us all? So
especially with us. I mean, my little boy is 8, and looking to him and seeing the way he goes about his life and uses the things in his life like technology, and I just think, wow, it's going to be an amazing time for him.
Absolutely. So, although I think we're the ones who are the most grateful, I think, because we're the ones who it's been developed as we've grown. You know, I mean, I kind of do a job now that I couldn't possibly have done that before. Didn't exist, my job.
But I think every generation thinks they've got the best of both worlds because they can see their parents and their offspring.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the next generation will probably feel the same because they'll have the benefit of our lives plus the next generation after them.
Yeah, that's very true. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens anyway.
Yeah.
So what would you say, Nicky, has been the high point of your design and making and sewing journey so far?
I think the high point has definitely got to be the realisation that I could use this as a business. I could use my skills as a designer and as a maker and a creator to be my life, my work. That's what I do for a job. This is what I do for a living. It's not a pretend thing that I just do on the odd occasion. Mm. And that realisation probably came when I sold the Ivy cloak. The moment you realise a complete stranger is willing to part with several £100s for something that you've made is a big deal, or it was for me.
Yes, absolutely.
In that moment, you're thinking, oh, so this is what I can actually do, and someone else is going to pay me money to do it. And that's amazing.
Yes, it certainly is. And I suppose that comes to people at different points in life. And certainly from what you were saying about being focused on giving that a go and then getting that scholarship for your marketing.
Yeah.
And even as you were saying, while we were kind of chatting before we started this, with adapting your business according to how you're managing your health, and also we've all got families and things involved as well. So I think it is wonderful to be able to take the thing that you are enjoying doing and realise that you can actually make a living out of it. It is a good. It's not often a moment in time, is it? Like you realise, yeah, I've sold this. Wow, this can be a stepping stone to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I was already running my own business, but yes, I think exactly. That moment that something I created from scratch sold was quite a turning point. Just prior to that, I'd been taking one thing and turning it into something else. Yes. And to do it from scratch was quite significant for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good moment. So that garment is a very special one then, isn't it, in many respects?
It is, yeah, it is. And I adore the photos as well. Lily is the model in the photographs of the Ivy cloak, and she's the model in a lot of the things that I was doing at the time because she was still living at home. She's my stepdaughter.
Right.
She's the one who was doing drama at the time. So when we did a fashion show at college, I got her and all her friends from the drama course to be models and take my cloaks down the catwalk. Because I actually made 4 other cloaks that year, one for each of the seasons, and I made a fairy outfit to go with it. So yeah, it was nice, and the Ivy cloak is very special to me.
Now, so that's a very special thing. Do you have any sort of stories to share with us? And we usually have a bit of a laugh with this one, when possibly something didn't go quite as planned and was maybe a bit of a disaster. And more importantly, what did you learn from that experience?
I think obviously you prepared me with the kind of questions you were going to ask me, so I've had a chance to think about this. I can't think of a really huge disaster where everything just went wrong.
Yeah.
But there were lots of little things that could have gone better.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like putting a big sign up in my sewing studio saying, just think before you do that. I've ironed on fusible interfacing onto the right side of the fabric, being the wrong side to iron it onto.
Yes.
So I've got this beautiful design on the fabric, and I've ironed on some interfacing.
Obliterated it with interfacing, yes. No.
And I've sewn waistbands on back to front. And I made some pole pants yesterday, and when I was just about to put them through the overlocker, I pin everything and tack it all because that's what Jane told me to do. Yeah. And I am obsessed with tacking now. I tack everything. And I've got it all tacked up, and I'm ready to overlock the waistband and the leg bands onto these pants. And the ticket, my garment care label, which has got my beautiful logo and my business name and all the information you need to look after it, is sewn right at the point where your belly button is. Which puts a seam up the middle of the waistband, which should be at the back. So that had to come off, and luckily it hadn't gone through the overlocker at that point.
Yeah. Good catch, though. Good catch.
Yeah.
And I think that brings into it it's very often with the things that we do, and this kind of comes back to a lot of the work that you'll have been doing with Jane as well. It's the small details, isn't it? It's a small difference that makes the difference to what you're doing.
Yeah.
As you go along and you kind of come across little things like that, I'm sure then you're thinking, right, actually, now I'm going to not put things on backwards, or, a lot of checking goes on, doesn't there, Nicky?
It does. And the more you do something, it goes up and up and up. So the more you're doing things, the more poleware I made, the better I got at it and the quicker I got at it. And then just before you hit the highlight of getting it right, you have a little blip where that overconfidence jumps in and you forget to sew a label on.
Yeah.
And I seem to go through that process with a lot of the things that I make. If it's something I'm doing, repeatedly, you get better and better and better. And then your concentration just slips slightly and that's it. You've sewn a seam up and you can't get inside to do something else to it.
Yeah.
So things improve with time.
Yeah, and that's our learning process there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We don't learn any other way in most cases. We do continually strive to improve, and kind of the little thing that I shan't be doing that again. It all kind of goes into the pot of managing and creating something wonderful that somebody wants to buy. So
I think so. I think the best way to learn how to do something well is to do it wrong, and you'll soon stop doing that and start doing it better.
When you've got to unpick it again. And now the other thing, I don't really know if it kind of applies, certainly when we often have a laugh with some of the textile artists I have on here about those dreaded unfinished objects lurking around in the backs of cupboards. So do you have anything like that you might want to share with us and give us a laugh? Or
yes.
Are you a good girl and you get everything finished?
No. I'm a very organised girl, and so there's places to keep these UFOs where they're out of sight. Yes. I've got UFOs in my bedroom, tend to be knitting and crochet, and UFOs from sewing are in the sewing room, and UFOs everywhere. I've even managed to fob one off onto my mum recently. We were at Yarndale, a big yarn show up in Skipton, probably 3 years ago, and we were talking to a lady on one of the stands, and she's an indie maker, and she dyes all different fibres, different textures and different thicknesses. Amazing texture in the work that she produced. And we both wanted the purple one, and she only had one left. And Mum, being a mum, let me have it. And I started it 2 or 3 years ago, or whenever it was. And she came to look after our little boy the other day while I went to an appointment. And I thought I'd give her something to do. So I gave her the UFO, and it's now her UFO.
That's a really good one, that. Fobbing our UFOs off onto our mothers. Yes, yeah. I don't think anyone's come up with that sneaky tactic yet.
I think she's got enough UFOs of her own. But yes. Hopefully she might finish this one, because I know she likes, it's kind of lilac purple, and she loves lilac.
Oh, well, there we are. I mean, and you were fighting over it to start off with, so she's got to have some motivation there.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And you're just saying there about how organised you are. How do you manage? How do you manage your plans? We've got the saying about being aware of long distant elephants. So those items that seem so very far away but slowly creep up on you, suddenly there they are. The deadline's here. How do you manage your time, Nicky? How do you keep track of your projects and your time? Keep yourself organised, but keep that creative juice flowing.
This is a big question. I'm not sure how I manage it, to be honest. I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants most of the time. I take on too much. I have far too much to do. I'm always taking on new projects, and I have new ideas, and I start it. But I'm an obsessive list writer.
Right, brilliant.
And I'm very digital in my approach to how I organise my life and my business, and everyone else's life around me gets put into a list as well.
Yes.
We're pretty busy as a family, so we've got 3 grown-up children that have since left home, and my 2 stepdaughters have both admitted to me that they now write lists like I do. We've got the little one at home who, like I say, is 8. We home educate him. My husband runs a business from home. He runs 2 businesses. He's an electrician, and he also works in the music industry, and I help with the accounts for his business, and he helps me on my business with the more physical side of things. He's just actually built me a photography studio in the old office, which is an annex on the side of the house.
Yeah.
And he's put a pole up. So the pole girls are coming tonight I'll do some photography of them on the pole in the costumes. So
Oh, brilliant. Oh,
yeah,
that's
there's always
handy,
lots
isn't it?
on.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Crikey. Never mind one elephant, you've got a herd of them.
I think the benefit of being so busy is I don't have time to think about those looming elephants in the distance. I don't have a chance to think about it until it's right on me.
Yeah.
But one thing I can't understand about the way I work, no matter how organised I get, no matter how many lists I write about the things that have got to be done by this date and that date, I can sit in the sewing room and not achieve anything in 4 hours and just really not do an awful lot, knowing that I've got a deadline in 4 weeks. Whereas the 5 days prior to that deadline, I'll be in there achieving all sorts. I'll get so much done because I seem to work under the pressure of the deadline. And I wish I didn't. I wish I could do it in advance. It'd be a lot less stressful. But no, I'll be up at 2 or 3 in the morning still sewing.
But if that's how if you keep coming back to working like that time and time again, then that's an intrinsic part of you, isn't it? It's like people who are obsessive at planning and I'm sit there and I block everything out and I'm going to do this and do that, which is okay for some work, but creativity isn't always on tap, is it? Right, this afternoon I'm going to sit and be creative. That doesn't always happen.
No, it definitely doesn't. I mean, it could be something as simple as just not being in the right mindset to be creative.
Yes.
There are times where it's just not flowing and you just have to go and do something else.
Yes.
But our lives are very unpredictable. There's not a lot of routine. No day looks like another. You know, with home educating our little boy, he's always here and he's doing a project or he's doing this or he needs help with that. And because my husband's work is very different, we don't go to a place of work and sit down for 8 hours and then come home.
No, that's right.
My husband he was de-rigging Little Mix in Sheffield the other night.
Oh,
so,
right, cool.
And he won't be doing that again. He'll be doing something else. This every day is so different that trying to plan what you're going to do from one day to the next is really hard. And when you add, disability and chronic ill health into the mix, the best of plans are going to fall apart because I might, just not be well enough to work one day.
Yes. And I think the main thing therefore is you mustn't beat yourself up about that sort of thing. So obviously the way in which you have evolved to be able to manage all of this stuff going on and your health and looking after your son and schooling him and everything, obviously the way in which you're managing your time, it works for you because otherwise you wouldn't be getting any of these things done, would you? You'd be just a tired wreck sat in the corner. Yeah. So it's obviously something's working. So I would say you're doing exceptionally well.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll keep hold of that thought then next time I think it's all falling apart.
No, you are doing fantastic. That's a huge amount of things to take on, and especially when you've got a partner who's working for themselves and here, there and everywhere all the time. It can be quite disruptive as well, I've found. So, yeah, good on you.
Go with it. You get up each day and you look at the calendar and go, right, what might happen today? And we just go with it.
That's part of the joy of living, isn't it, I think?
Yeah. Life's definitely interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of talking about future plans and things that you're kind of working towards, what sort of plans and projects have you got on the go, Nicky, that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, there's the immediate plans centre around the pole wear and the events that I'm taking part in at the end of this year.
Yes.
And the clothing, the kids' clothing and some adult clothing, I've got a lot of ideas for that are not quite implemented yet. I've been making unicorn hoodies, so the hoods of these, there's like a zip-up hoodie, but the hood has ears and a horn or wings. I've made one with dragon wings.
Yeah, they're cute, those. I liked when I saw the pictures of those. Oh, they're cute, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're in the immediate future when I can just get this next event out of the way with the pole wear.
Yes.
But more long-term, I'm thinking about the way my health will affect how I'm able to work and what I can do with my business.
Yes.
And I'm looking to start in more design areas and maybe sell digital products. So maybe designing clothes and creating patterns to sell as a pattern rather than a finished made product.
Yes.
Because that can bring an income in without me having to do more physical work.
Yes.
And I'm also really interested in surface pattern design, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my own fabric range. I want to design patterns that can be used for fabric, whether to just use them for myself or whether to digitize the designs and sell the licenses for them is something I'm looking at as a future possibility.
Right, that's interesting as well. Different, again, extending what you think you'll be able to do and capturing your ideas in a different format. So yeah,
Mm.
that's an interesting way of moving forward as well.
I was just thinking, with having a disability, the way society perceives you as a person is quite different to reality.
Mm.
And I want to be able to work for as long as possible. I want to still contribute as a disabled person to society rather than be a drain on it, which is how disabled people are often seen in the media, depicted as sort of just in need of help and in receipt of things and claiming things rather than actually producing things and putting things out there to benefit other people. So keeping my business going as long as possible to enable me to be constructive in my output as a person is important to me.
Yeah, and again, a very, very positive comment. And I think it's a great shame that people appear to be passed by and ignored because they do have health issues, whereas really people need a bit more support and facilitation to help them, as you say, contribute.
Yeah.
And it makes everybody's life so much more interesting. It must be soul destroying to be kind of stuck.
It's hard.
Yeah, stuck.
I use a wheelchair. I don't go out without a wheelchair anymore.
Yeah.
And so people often don't speak to me. It's that old thing of, oh, does he take sugar? I don't know. Ask him.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it does happen. I know it sounds like a big fat cliche, but it really happens. I get ignored. People don't want to talk to me. It's like they think that they assume that I don't have the ability to construct a sentence. And as far as I'm aware, there isn't anybody in history ever been in a wheelchair because of stupidity.
Yeah.
It's generally a physical ailment rather than an incapacity of some sort.
Yeah.
Plenty of stupid people that can't construct a sentence and they're walking around on 2 feet perfectly fine.
And you know, and then to listen to you talking about all of your ideas and the things you're doing and your daily life and all the things that you have on the go and your ideas and your family environment. Why would anybody think that having a wheelchair is going to affect any of those things? It's you as a person, isn't it?
It is. I suppose it's fear of the unknown. People who are not familiar with anyone with a disability, it kind of shows people, it makes them aware of their own vulnerabilities and their own mortality, and it raises questions that people perhaps find difficult and don't want to think about. Yeah. I like to talk about it. Some people don't, and that's fair enough. It's a personal choice.
Yes.
I think the more disability is spoken about, the more understanding there will be and the less stigma there will be around it. But generally, I try and use it to my advantage because I get underestimated all the time.
Well, this is. I'm sure you do, yeah. Because as you say, it's back to that perceptions of people won't actually speak or ask you things because they think there's something in quotes wrong with you. When as you say, it's your body that's kind of grinding to a halt, not your brain and your ideas. So, it must be very, very frustrating, though, Nicky. And thank you for shedding some light and ideas on that as well. So,
we generally laugh about it most of the time. That's how our family gets through it all. We just laugh lots.
Well, laughter's the best medicine. I think you do.
Yeah.
And well, I'm from Yorkshire anyway, so we're often renowned for having possibly quite inappropriate humour. We'll laugh at things that nobody else really finds funny, but do you know what? Sometimes just having a laugh is just what you need to do, isn't it, really?
Definitely.
So we'd go bonkers otherwise. Right, brilliant. So we'll be looking out for your pink giraffe pearlware and your kids' clothes and all the other brilliant ideas you've got on the go as well, Nicky. So that's been absolutely wonderful listening to your stitchery story with us today. Something a bit different for everybody, but absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure people want to find out more about your work. So on your episode, we'll have your various links. So your main website is pinkgiraffe.co.uk, yeah? Now, Facebook, I know you're a very busy girl on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, you've got your pearlware page.
Yep, Pink Giraffe pearlware.
Yeah.
Then there's Pink Giraffe.
Yeah.
And there's Nicky Merrick, a textile artist.
Right.
It's less businessy. It's more personal stuff that I like to do.
Your personal things that you're sharing on there, right?
Yeah.
And I also know that you're busy on Instagram as well.
Yeah, Instagram's amazing for creative people. It's just so visual. I love it.
It's lovely, yes. Now, I do share images from the show for the artist on Instagram as well, and I show the cover art, and that's actually going quite well. That's growing quite well for me, is the Stitchery Stories Instagram. So we'll be connecting on there. Okay, so the best place for people to get in touch with you would be your website?
Yeah, that's the best place. Everything else can be found from there.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, Nicky, do you know what? I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you today. It's taken us a while. We've had various hurdles, but we got here eventually. And it's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you. So thank you so much. And I'll wish you all the best for your upcoming pearlware shows as well.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. If you liked this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and offers from our lovely guests. Please visit stitcherystories.com to join the fan club. Of course, if you have iTunes, then subscribe there to automatically get new episodes, and why not leave us a review and rating whilst you are there. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. So keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.